I felt like, well, I'm either going to do this right. I'm either going to own this and we're going to make it my decision, or I'm going to go put her in something else that works. Because what doesn't work is you being in a homeschool situation in which you hate and your children hate, and you're not benefiting from that at all. So I got to the point where I was either going to own it or I was going to move on. And that's what I had to do. I had to make that decision.
Welcome to Our Life Homeschooling. My name is Sherry, Christian, wife to my high school sweetheart Nelson, and thankful mom to 10 incredible kids. I'm the author of the blog and YouTube channel Our Life Homeschooling, where I share homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms. I believe that motherhood is ministry, and homeschooling is simply an extension of parenting. My passion is to cheer on other moms who are at home doing the most important work of all, raising the next generation for the glory of God. Hi, and welcome to the Our Life Homeschooling podcast. I'm going to be talking with my friend Brandi today. She is from the Homeschool Hustle on Instagram, and we're going to be talking about homeschooling proactively versus reactively. Brandi pulled her kids out of the school system because she was concerned about some of the things they were being taught. And so her initial response to homeschooling was just reactive, to just follow the same example that she had had in traditional school. But she quickly found out that homeschooling is just very different from a traditional school setting. So she's going to be sharing that with us. And I want to make sure to let you all know about the Made2Homeschool Community and Brave 2025. Brave 2025 is an online homeschool conference. There are over 20 speakers, some live Q&A sessions. I'll be sitting in on the session on elementary questions. Brave 2025 is free to Made2Homeschool members. So if you would like to get access to this year's conference, you'll want to check out the link below. I hope I'll see you at Brave 2025. I'm excited to talk with Brandi. It's been a couple years, so let's get started. Hi, Brandi.
Hey, how are you?
Great. It's so nice to see you again. It's been about 2 years.
I cannot believe that. I seriously cannot believe that.
I know, me too. So you were on 2 summers ago, and I was trying to think about what we talked about, but I think it was misconceptions in homeschooling. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
It was a good time.
And that wasn't that like your first year of homeschooling?
It totally was. Well, I think it was technically my first year that I liked homeschooling.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
There were years before that, but yes, it was my first year that I actually liked homeschooling, that I was like, wait, this is awesome. Let me tell people about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now you have a couple years under your belt. So I just thought it'd be really cool to have you on again. I'm sure you're in a totally different place now than where you were. But for people that didn't see the last video, can you just tell us a little bit about your family?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I am married. We live in Northern California. We've got 3 beautiful kids. And I think this is actually going to be my 5th year now in homeschool, which would account for some of the gray hairs that I'm finding on my head. But we love it. Every year has been super different, but in like a really cool way. That's what it's supposed to be, right? It's just pivoting and figuring out where we're at and having a really good time. I feel like every year I feel like I get a little bit more sold on the idea that this is right and this is what we're supposed to be right now. And I do feel like my kids' relationships are stronger than they've ever been. So I would say we've been homeschooling for 5, but it's really been just a continuation since they were born. You know, it's just been picking up since then, and I kind of reclaimed that role.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think of it as just an extension of parenting. I think sometimes we overthink what it is.
Totally.
It's just parenting, and you're just moving them to the next place that they need to be and moving forward. So yeah, I do think we tend to overthink it. And you have a homeschool Instagram account. Can you give us the name of that?
Yes. Okay. So I run the Homeschool Hustle. We did have a website for a few years, but it was just so expensive for a while. So we have an e-guide that we offer, but we basically just want to encourage people to, if they're considering homeschool and they're in the public, specifically those that are in the public school system, to transition to homeschool, and then also just help them figure out what they're doing. And it's a whole different worldview, which we can talk about. And so just being there to be a support. And we also just have a lot of silly reels to basically say, we're all in this together. And,
Yeah.
there's a certain language that homeschoolers speak. So
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
yeah.
And yeah, I've seen lots of your posts on Instagram. It's so encouraging. I think it's really important for people to have a community that they know, like in person, but not everybody has that. And when you don't have it, then just dive into people online. Find your community online, because it's just going to be what helps you keep going, and it's going to just spur you on to find other people that are thinking the same way, doing the same thing, and it's going to really encourage you.
Yeah, and make you feel like you're not crazy, because most people don't choose this path. So just knowing that, like, okay, if you are crazy, at least there's others that are as crazy as you. So
Right. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about proactive homeschooling versus reactive homeschooling. Yeah. So can you even just tell us, like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Absolutely. Well, just on a foundational level, being proactive versus reactive is really the difference between owning your circumstances or letting your circumstances own you. And this even works in every facet of your life. So, like, let's say on the sports team, your coach is like, let's be proactive in our playing. And we're not just being reactive to the external circumstances around us. We have goals, we have a vision, and we're working towards something, and we're not letting things get in our way. And so I like to think of it that way with homeschool. Because what it comes down to is you're either going to be owning why you're doing this or reacting to the world and letting them set the terms as to why you are making the decisions that you are for your children and their education.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah. And it's so important to know your why.
Amen. Yeah. So, and I mean, that's what it comes down to, is if you don't have your why, then kind of what you were talking about earlier, you're just floating around and you feel like, do I have a community? Every day you wake up and you're being wishy-washy and you're hearing all these different behaviors and attitudes and worldviews about homeschool. And you're just like, oh, maybe they're right. Oh, maybe they're right. Oh, maybe they're right. And you're just going with the flow. Mm-hmm. And you're never just putting a stake somewhere and saying, I'm going to own this. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that why can be different for different people. So, and I didn't know if you wanted to get into how my why changed.
Yeah, go ahead and share.
So I feel like my first year of homeschool was hard. I kind of already mentioned this, but I was frustrated with the public school system, as a lot of people are. I felt like I had to mourn the fact that it was different than how it was, because I was in the public system and I loved my time at public school. And so I looked forward to my children having that experience as well. So for me, kind of mourning the fact that they won't be having that same experience, looking at the testing rates, the literacy rates, the emotional, and just all of the issues going on with the emotional health of children, I started to realize that I couldn't continue to bring my daughter to public school and without feeling kind of like a fraud almost. Like I had this worldview and I had these values, but then I was putting her in a system that I didn't believe in. So it's like, what are we doing here? So I pulled her out. But originally, it wasn't like I wanted to homeschool. It's just I didn't want her in public. So I was reacting to the world and all the issues. But what I wasn't doing is wanting homeschool. I was just biding my time until I could find maybe a charter that was classical or had my values, or you know what I mean? So that first year was really hard. It was really, really hard. And I resented the fact that I had to do what I was doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then it changed, because then I felt like, well, I'm either going to do this right, I'm either going to own this and we're going to make it my decision, or I'm going to go put her in something else that works. Because what doesn't work is you being in a homeschool situation in which you hate and your children hate, and you're not benefiting from that at all. So I got to the point where I was either going to own it or I was going to move on. And that's what I had to do. I had to make that decision. Yeah. So I saw a huge change, first and foremost in me. But it transcends to your children, because if you're waking up in the morning and you're like, well, we have to do this because, public school can't do it for you, or we have to do this and that, the kids are not going to be into that. It's hard enough to get them to want to homeschool anyway when you're pumped up, but for you to be dragging your feet, the attitude that I brought towards homeschool and the why of why I did it it was, we're not going to do this so that you can check a box or you can get a good grade on your test or even to get in a good college. You know, our education and the way we're doing this is so much greater than that. We're here to make Christ known to others. And we're here to know him, and we're here to learn how to communicate well, because we are asked to communicate well, and we're supposed to be using our minds well. And so when my why changed and I owned the decision to homeschool, it allowed my children to see education differently. And it wasn't just, oh, I got to get this done. It was like, hey, like, we're using our gifts in a way. And that perspective matters in everything we do, whether it's going to our work, when we go to work, or, you know, working out or whatever we're doing. If we have that purpose and why behind there, it gives us a different motivation, and it allows us to do a lot more.
Yeah. And I'm sure your kids totally notice when mom is just trying to check things off a box, or when you're thinking, okay, what can we learn? Or this is an opportunity. Yeah. We have a really short window of your childhood, and I want to make it count. I want to invest wisely in this time. And like you said, I know for us, sharing our faith is a huge part of why we homeschool. Spending so much time with our kids is such a huge part. We now have a child. We have one graduate. Our second son is graduating next year. Wow. And let me tell you, the time really does go by so fast. I mean, I feel like I was 25 yesterday in the hospital with him. I can't believe that it's over. Yeah. And he's an adult now. And so it puts it in perspective, and you realize how short the time really is. And it's, even since having one graduate, I've just been more intentional about relationships. Different things matter to me than they did at first. Yeah. The relationships are just so important. And so, yeah, those were our whys. And I think the kids really pick up on mom. If we are interested in learning, if we want to keep growing, it catches, and they don't see it as another workbook page to do. They see it as wanting to follow our example, which is how it should be.
Oh, absolutely. There's this meme, and it has like this mom on her phone next to a kid on his phone, and she's like, how do you get your kid to read? And they're over there reading, and the mom's holding a book and the kid's holding a book, and it's like, they're going to do what they see. You know, and if you're like, how are your kids reading so much? It's like, well, I read a lot, and we make reading time like an important part of life. And it's not like, okay, once you're 18 and you've reached high school and you're done with that, you don't have to worry about your education anymore, which is totally a thing. You know, I mean, obviously there's secondary education, and a lot of people go to college, but otherwise it's like, okay, I got my education done, check. And it's like, that's not how we're supposed to live our lives. We're always learning, we're always growing, and mom's excited to continue this, and I can change my mind about things. I can learn about things. And so I totally agree with you. It's infectious. It's totally infectious.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And your kids are becoming a lot like you, which can sometimes be really intimidating, because you see things in your kids that you're like, oh man, I do that. And you know, you want to help them and you want to correct them, and then you realize that this is something, they're just following your example. So it's really been challenging for me as a mom to grow as a person, and it's matured, both me and my husband, just realizing that this is discipleship, and it's just even more weighty because they're with us so much. They're with us all the time, and so they really do become like the people they spend the most time with. So it can be intimidating.
Yes, absolutely. No, your influence is huge. And with great power comes great responsibility. So, yes.
Right. Yeah. So how can we remind ourselves as moms of our why? How can we just keep that at the forefront? Because I know a lot of times I just get into my groove of what we always do. We wake up, it's another day, we just do it again. And before I know it, sometimes I just get burnt out, or I just lose that perspective of what really matters. How can we keep that at the forefront of our minds?
Absolutely. Such a great question. I have a lot of sayings and quotes on my walls. I told my husband the other day, I like made these cute things on Canva that were like, why history? why science? Like, and it's basically like, we're supposed to be studying God's general revelation in addition to his special revelation. And so we need to learn how to read so we can read his special revelation, but we need to be learning science and math and trying to understand the painter through the painting. And so I have all these quotes everywhere, and I'm like, honey, I think the wall needs more quotes. He's like, we don't need anything else to read on this wall. But I love printing out my whys and having them framed everywhere and have our homeschool corner. But more than anything, I just think finding a community, like you mentioned, and if you can't find a personal community, having an online community of women and parents in general that can, in those moments where you go, why am I doing this again? Reminding you why we are doing what we are doing. And I have the best homeschool friends now where I'm like, guys, this is really hard. And they're like, but remember why you're doing it. I'm like, yes. And they help me in those moments where I'm like, why are we even, this could be so much easier. Like, why am I doing this to myself? And it's like, no, remember this. And you're like, absolutely. And so you need people in your corner that can remind you of those things, and obviously have cute printouts in your home, but having a community that reminds you of that is really, really helpful too.
It is. I agree. We're part of a great homeschool co-op, and we have been for years. It's really the difference between doing it in the long term and just burning out and quitting, I really think. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Brandi, thank you so much for coming on this week and sharing with my viewers. I know this is going to encourage a lot of moms, and it's so good to see you again.
I know. It's been so fun. We need to do this more often.
Yes. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me in this conversation with Brandi. I know this encouraged me. I hope it did the same for you. I want to remind you that you can find tons of resources for your homeschool on the blog, ourlifehomeschooling.com. I have book lists, homeschooling encouragement, free copy work, samples of our checklist that we use in our homeschool, and just a basic how to get started in homeschooling. So if you need some help, ourlifehomeschooling.com is a great place to start. You can also find me on YouTube, where I share weekly videos to encourage other moms in homeschooling. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time on the Our Life Homeschooling podcast.